It's Open House Thursday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Murayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Hello. Obiajilu Ugbo, how are you doing today?
You were looking for what to add.
Oh, yes. How did you do? Which kind of prefix do I add?
When
Is it
it's
importer,
plenty.
exporter? Is it multidimensional,
one.
entrepreneur?
Yeah,
Yeah, how
I'm
you
doing
doing?
good. Yeah, I'm getting my energy back gradually.
Good.
Yesterday after the show, I went into the mall. I wanted to get some vegetables and meat for the house. So, you know, all those strip cut meat, those cubes that they use for stir fry and different sauces. So I got there now in front of the place to pick the meat. The person who was supposed to be attending to me was busy gisting with a customer. We're having a good time laughing. I was standing. Who would attend to me? He didn't answer. Who would attend to me? He now called somebody from inside. I don't want to mention the people who know the place, the way they set up. Called somebody from inside to come and attend to me and continued with his gist.
Imagine that.
I just pushed my cart and walked away. Some customers there were upset. They were calling him out. I didn't want to hear. But I was feeling, if this was his business, would he abandon it to gist when you know that the customer will likely go back with their money? You see how people spoil people's businesses. That's why, and there's a level you get to, you can't handle everything on your own. You need workers to work. But then they work and they do it as if, you know, consign me. I felt so bad. And I needed the meat too. Because when I got home, I know, don't be say I vexed. I had wasted time.
Yeah.
When I got home now, okay, can we make sauce? He said, you did not buy the chicken.
I know how that feeling is.
I should have just waited. No, I'm not waiting. I'll go to another mall today after the show.
How are you doing, Tokwe?
I'm very
Like the
good.
earrings.
Yeah, thank you. So I had a conversation with my husband this morning, and he's renovating. He's doing like massive renovation in his new office, like really a whole lot. So he said his landlord, when I went there last week, Sunday, I saw it. So he said his landlord came to the office yesterday, and I was just praying for him, like serious prayers, that everything you want to do in this place will prosper. Because the last tenant that was there left the place a huge mess. Like everywhere was scattered. My husband was tiling, doing the floor, put carports, like major upgrade of the facility that the landlord was so happy, was praying for him. And it just, that's his nature, actually. But I just had to mention it because there are some people that when you move away from an office or you move away from a building, they will remove the screws, they will remove the lights. Like, defacing the place is bad. And when you move into a new place, don't say it is not my building, it's not my own, you will not upgrade it. How you treat other people's things is how you will treat your own. So do good wherever you find yourself.
Honestly.
How you doing, Mariam?
I'm okay.
What's going on with you?
I'm all right. I'm okay.
No, I always like your long hair because it makes you have this really diva
It's a look you're
This
familiar
looks-
with.
Yeah, but this is very serious. Like I have an important meeting this afternoon, you know, very, very serious-ish.
You people should hurry up,
Short
let's
hair
go.
looks
I
very
like
serious.
all my looks. Thank you very much.
But this is also a nice look.
It's always a nice
Yeah.
look. Thank you, Mariah. Let me just keep it that.
One of those days.
Well, something happened yesterday. I'm not ready to share. Yeah. So
No, it's one of those days. Yeah, it happens. You know, I was reading a book, Lady Gwen. And then you guys know, she sent me a book, and I was reading her book because it was good to get into somebody else's mind, what they were going through. She talked about the fact that she was going through depression very recently, between 2020 and 2021, and she was with friends, and you know, she was just alone by herself. And it was interesting to see how somebody was able to express their pain, you know, in that book. So it's one of those things where everybody has a moment. It doesn't mean there's depression, but just days you just want to just be by yourself and stay alone and just reflect and then be better. So it's good to always take out time. But that's what
You're looking very bright yellow.
Yeah, I should be wearing business shoes. I saw yellow.
But that's a different
just
shade of
taking your
yellow, I
shoes.
think.
Yeah. This is a TVC's outfit there. Thank you for the wardrobe.
Looks good.
Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we go through the front pages of the paper. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
All right, we're going to start with the nation. APC pledges revisit of zoning amid lawmakers' protests. Why annual budgets fail to perform. Oyetola urges Osun APC to accept Supreme Court's verdict on Adeleke. Tribunal dismisses another party's petition against Tinubu and APC. Federal government explains signing big contracts at the tail end of tenure. States fail to access 46 billion naira education funds. Lagos government seals of 12 Banana Island houses, and Tinubu in Europe on investment drive. Okay, which story are we starting with?
Okay, so the Lagos state government yesterday has continued the enforcement of demolishing or, illegal construction that is happening on the Banana Island. They said they resealed 12 buildings where occupants had gone to take off the seals that they had put in the first place. Right. And also, government demolished some fences on new project sites that were encroaching on waterways and other parts of the estate, and then including some that were perforated or toked from previous enforcement. So they say toking is a process of partial demolition to compel compliance. And even with all this, it seemed like the residents on Banana Island are just continuing to do what, they feel like doing. The general manager of Lagos State Building Control Agency, they said, led the enforcement team. Something even funny happened. They said a scuffle ensued at 306 Close, where a security guard was resisting the resealing of the property and slapped a director. Anyway, they said the guard was subdued, apprehended, and the house was resealed. Other houses also that the broken seals, while other houses with broken seals were accessed, they denied them like gates to go in. Anyway, that's what they've done. 12 houses have been resealed, and they've asked residents who, have one infraction to the other to go to last BCA and then other sister agencies for requisite approvals. Okay, let me take the story concerning contracts. So, just 18 days to the end of this administration, FEC yesterday considered 37 memoranda, some of which approved 337.34 billion naira, which was earmarked. The federal government had explained that it has to continue to entertain and approve such huge volumes of multi-billion naira contracts, even till the day they stop working for Nigerians on the last day. The senior special assistant to the president, Malam Garba was also there. This meeting was presided by the vice president, Oshibajo, and he was saying specifically that when reporters were querying the need to turn out so many contracts when the mission is meant to be rounding off, the Minister of Transportation, Muazu Sambo, specifically said that it is not out of place to have such activities in final days of administration. So there was really no reason given, but huge sums that were approved yesterday at FEC meeting, 18 days. I don't know how they plan to
use it
utilize this
amount
of money.
So the Universal Basic Education Commission, UBEC, yesterday said over 46.2 billion matching grants for the development of public primary and junior secondary schools has remained unassessed by some states. So there's a lot of data concerning that. They said this was spoken by the acting executive secretary of UBEC, Professor Bala Zakari, and he said this during his oversight visits to the commission. And he was saying that, so he presented the 2022 Capital Budget Implementation Report, and he said 162 billion was allocated to the states as UBE grants between 2019 and 2022, while 116 billion was accessed by the 36 states and FCT. The total unassessed matching grants as at April 30, 2023 by the 36 and FCT stands at 46.2 billion between 2019 and 2022. And it says the 162 billion allocated to the states, being UBA grants as at April 30, 2023, was 116 billion, which was assessed by the 36 states and the FCT Abuja, representing 71.52%. So this remaining money, they didn't tell us why the states have not been able to access it. I know you mentioned something like states are supposed to generate funds equivalent to what they are expecting to get. So if I know that we still have money in the educational sector that I have an opportunity to access? Why am I not generating to get it so that I can use it for the infrastructure and the teachers in my states?
Not all the states have accessed that fund. And
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I like
It's
the
just
clause.
lying there.
If you cannot do counterparts, don't bother.
There's no need.
Yeah, I want to take the story of why annual budgets would continue to fail. So the budget office, the DG of the budget office of the Federation is blaming the rising cost of the fact that we have a lot of projects pending on the fact that we don't have, Nigeria does not have an organic, according to him, he said, we don't have an organic law to guide our budgeting. But he reeled out a lot of details I'd like to mention. He said that it would take us to spend 100 billion annually for us to meet the 20,000 abandoned projects stationed nationwide. Then he said we shouldn't call ourselves a rich nation, that while Nigeria has the potential of being rich, we are not rich. We're not even oil rich. Then he said, when you talk about oil-rich nation, you're talking about a nation like Saudi Arabia, 34 million citizens, pumping out 10 million barrels of oil per day. We're talking about Kuwait, 3 million population, 3 million oil barrels. We are 200 million citizens, and we are pumping out 1.9 million barrels per day. So we're not close to what we need. He mentioned that another thing, there are many things in that but let me just mention this last one. He said that we cannot continue to borrow money, and that not because our GDP is not high enough to debt to GDP ratio is bad, but our revenue is so low that we cannot pay back. That if it is over 30% is a problem, but now we are spending almost 100% of our revenue.
Are you hearing what you don't already know?
Debt.
So this way well.
That was why before the show I was saying that the new incoming administration
has their work cut out for them. The punch.
It is going
Senate
to be
presidency, dissent in APC, aspirants demand fresh zoning formula. Lagos arraigns Ezendigbo for terrorism. NNPCL needs huge investment to meet demand, says Dangote. 4 men on trial for killing their cousin. Ex-power minister arrested over alleged 22 billion naira fraud. Trouble looms over rising debt, budget office warns. And subsidy, Buhari seeks approval for $800 million palliative loan. Okay, which story are we starting with?
Let me take the human interest story. So 4 men are on trial for killing their cousin for money ritual. They are Daniel Luka, Isaiah, Audu, Wavi, David, and Ayuba Musa. The story is that they had approached a friend called Ebenezer who introduced them to a ritualist, and the ritualist had asked them to get body parts. One of them called his cousin and asked him to come. On the day he called his cousin, when the cousin was leaving, the neighbor saw him. I was like, where are you going at this time of the night and you're not feeling well? He said, oh, my cousin just called me and I have to go. So the neighbors knew that he was leaving to see his cousin. Anyway, he met this group of 4 and then they took him into the bushes and they killed him and took out his organs. His brother, the next day, they had not seen him, so they were looking for him. Unfortunately, someone said, oh, they saw a body. They found a body somewhere, and it was his brother. And that's how they reported to the police. And investigation led them also to the ritualist who had been sent money via the banks. And he had gone to the bank to withdraw 20,000 naira. This is what it was for. The person that connected them collected 40,000 naira and gave the ritualist 20,000. I mean, that is what this was about.
Fair transaction.
Anyway, he was the ritualist. The police had informed the banks ahead of time. So when the ritualist got there, the guard held him down, but he tried to run, so he was shot. And the rest were apprehended. And it's just so sad because it's those who are really closest to you, you know, that do the most harm.
Really, really sad. Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue with our review. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still reviewing Punch. You have a story, BC?
Yeah, so Africa's richest man and chairman Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, has said that the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, that's NNPCL, needs to roll out massive investments in terms of oil and gas to meet the demands for these commodities. He said the national oil firm should invest more because there were many off-takers waiting to take off the products from the company. And he said this during the ongoing 2023 Annual Value Assurance Review Workshop of the Nigerian Upstream Investment Management Services Limited. And he went ahead to say that as an investment manager, you are supposed to actively seek investment opportunities, assess them, and take shrewd investment decisions, that the NNPC has the capacity to generate billions of dollars in revenue if the right decisions were made. Now that looking at the Petroleum Industry Act, which has, transformed them from just being a government establishment to a commercial entity, they have no excuse. Then he gave example of his own business, said that they have the capacity to make it possible if they really want it to be possible, that it wasn't only the refinery that he rolled out in 6 years ago. It wasn't only the refinery, they had about 32 projects that they rolled out at the same time. But there were a lot of hitches there, the currency devaluation, COVID-19, challenges of infrastructure. And one of the things that he realized is that our infrastructure as a country is not in a place for you to have huge investments. And so they must look at expanding our infrastructure to be able to take in a lot of investments.
I was going to take the story from Lagos. So the Ezendigbo of Ajawa State, Frederick Nwajago, was arraigned in court in the High Court yesterday at Tafawa Balewa Square. If you recall, this is the man who, there was a viral video where he said that he would invite members of the indigenous people of Biafra, that's IPOB, to Lagos to secure properties of Igbos in Lagos. If you recall, that video went viral. And he was being arraigned because, according to the court, it was an attempt of acts of terrorism, participation in terrorism, meeting to support a proscribed entity, attempt to finance an act of terrorism, and preparation to commit an act of terrorism preferred against him by the Lagos State government. So he was arraigned yesterday, and the case has commenced.
All right, I want to take an human interest story in Punch, yeah. So a widow, her name is Tolulokpe Okeowo. She is a widow of her late husband, Olalekon, who was stabbed to death. She has 7 children, still nursing a set of twins, and the complaint is that they've not released her husband's dead body. She said she had told the police she's not pursuing any case, that she only reported to the police because she didn't want anybody to think that she was involved in the murder of her husband. She was advised to report to the police, and they took the dead body and they have not released her. She has gone. She went to the police station. She lives in Aja area, in Salvation Estate. Said they went to Langbasa police station. They said they've transferred the case to the state's criminal investigation department. She went there. That she didn't have money for lawyers and all of that, but they said she must write and submit. That she wrote, submitted, they still haven't released her husband's body, that she's trying to take care of the children left behind, and that the cost of mortuary is accumulating and she would have to pay, that she doesn't know why she's being deprived of the police report necessary for her to get the cops out. So she says she has contacted Punch has contacted the police public relation officer, Benjamin, and she said Ohundeyin said that the woman should be advised to go and meet the head of the particular unit doing the investigation, and that's confirmed. But I just feel like
But you see, when the state had established that murder had occurred, it's no more about her. It's about the state. The state, it can actually, there's a case beyond her right now. So it's not about you.
But she's waiting for a police report so that she can collect the corpse and bury. But she has done all she can, and they haven't released it. That's
I mean, it's a really difficult state to be in. But we need to know the facts of the case. Moving on very quickly now to Daily Sun. National Assembly leadership, APC hints of review as rejection greets zoning arrangement. NGC rejoices as court bars NBC from imposing fines on broadcast stations. Tinubu travels to Europe to meet investors, fine-tune transition plans. While we're still awarding multi-billionaire contracts to federal government. LPOB back a article on live broadcast of tribunals proceedings. Panic as sit-at-home enforcers burn vehicles in Anambra. And insecurity poverty getting worse in Nigeria, says Bishop. Okay, which story are we starting with?
We have a gunman enforcing an illegal sit-at-home order in Onitsha. the commercial nerve of Anambra State yesterday, and they went ahead to burn a bus and a tricycle in the area. So there was a trending video of the incident which showed the vehicles on fire in the video, and some gunshots were also heard. And they said a message was circulated on social media last weekend stating that there will be a 4-day sit-at-home exercise in the southeast, beginning from Monday, May 8th to Thursday, May 11th, and no reason was given, however, for it. So the residents of the commercial city, everybody got panicked, and they were spreading the news of the incident, but the police waded in immediately. They said they had sent their men to restore peace. And yes, so while they were trying to chase the people who they felt were the ones who passed the message about the sit-at-home, said they were heading towards Abagana in Njikoka local government area. So it was at the attempt to run away that they decided to touch the vehicles, set it on fire, and then left. But peace has been restored to that area. There's no sit-at-home happening anywhere in the southeast.
Yes, I have this story. I think a lot of people will be happy in the media space, will be happy about it. So they said the Nigerian Guild of Editors has commended the Federal High Court in Abuja over its order of perpetual injunctions restraining the NBC from imposing fines on broadcast stations in the country. Let me see if I can summarize it. It just says that the court held that the NBC code, which empowered it to impose sanctions, is in direct conflict with Section 6 of the 1999 Constitution that vested judicial powers in the court. It says that that the fines imposed by NBC as punishment for for any offences are contrary to the law and therefore unconstitutional and null and void. So they have no right to impose fines. They said they cannot be both complainant and court and judge over their matter. They are not the police. They cannot be investigating or leading investigations.
I thought they're a regulatory body. That's their job too. I don't understand.
There's a police for that. There's a court for that. So many things. So a lot of people are happy about it. I guess we'll hear from the NBC how they take this interpretation of their own laws. Yes.
Somebody must watch the watchers. But let's move on. I was going to take the story. So the president-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has gone off, traveled. He went to Europe. According to his media aide, Tinubu will use the opportunity of the trip to fine-tune his transition plans and the other programs and his policy options. He wanted to move away from unnecessary pressures and distractions that stays in Nigeria, because usually we all know that once he's in the country, it's like a mecca for different people coming together. Also, during this visit, the president-elect will engage with investors and other key allies with global marketing investment opportunities for the country, and to secure his administration's readiness to enable business-friendly climate for policies and regulations that he plans to have. He had promised that he would hit the ground running in the past, so people are expecting that these alliances he's trying to put together would help ensure that his administration start work immediately. They're sworn in on May 29th.
Let me take the story about financial infractions. So the Senate has indicted the NAFDAC, NECO, about 45 other MDAs based on the indictment that was sequel to the reports from the Attorney General Office, Auditor General of the Federation's office from 2017 and 2018. They said that they were going to also, the Senate committee is also going to push for the National Assembly recommended annual federal audit report so that they'll be able to better fight corruption within the system. They highlighted a particular case where NIMASA had paid $10 million for legal fee and technical charges without result to the consulted revenue fund. They said they paid $5 million for the legal fees, and they did not mention the legal company, but the legal company was supposed to just provide some services, and then there's a $5 million consultative charges. And these similar payments were recorded by other MDAs, which is why this indictment was done. And they are hoping that if we get annual audited reports, we will be able to stem the corruption within MDAs.
Very quickly, Vanguard, senators-elect, reps-elect move for open contests. Presidential poll, court adjourns Obi's petition against Tinubu till May 17th. Dangote Aluminium hail NNPCL's performance under Kyari. BVN has no expiry date, says CBN. How bandits try to cripple northern economy. says El-Rufai, UK court permits Kanu to appeal judgment in favor of FCDO. Supreme Court verdict, focus on delivering good governance, Oyetola tells Adeleke. 22 billion naira fraud, EFCC arrests ex-power minister Salim Aman. Buhari writes Senate, seeks approval of $800 million loan. And NG hails court for stopping NBC from fining broadcast stations. Okay, which story?
They say that former Minister for Power, Salim Aman, has been arrested by EFCC, and it has to do with an investigation over, alleged corruption in the execution of some power projects. The story in summary is that 22 billion naira was diverted, meant for projects, but he and a few others shared this money amongst themselves, bought themselves properties in Nigeria and abroad. Some of these properties have been recovered, millions of naira and dollars have been recovered as well. But EFCC at the time of this report could not be reached for further details.
This is some brazen allegations. Okay, so that is all we can take on Front Page Review. When we come back, we're bringing our first guest of today. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. Joining us on the show today via Zoom is the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Jeffrey Onyema. He'll be giving us updates on the evacuation of Nigerians in the war-torn Sudan and so many other burning questions Nigerians have concerning the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you. So you can join the conversations on the numbers on your screen. It would be great to have that 08127053687, 09139076948. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag yourviewtvc so we can read your tweet. Now, sir, let's start with those who have come back. We're having various figures in the newspapers. Could you give us an accurate number of the numbers of Nigerians that have returned and also those who, for whatever reason, have been unable to be evacuated from Sudan?
I can't give you an exact figure of those that have come in. I don't have them at my fingertips right now, but it should be in the region of about 2,000.
6,000 Nigerians have returned? 2,000.
It should be in that region, the region of about almost 2,000, yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that. So now, usually it's not the first time we're having these kinds of evacuations. We've had from Libya, we've had from Ukraine, and so many of these things. When they return, what's usually the next step of reconciliation, or how do we get them back into society? Do they just go back to their families, or is there something the ministry does to help with the reintegration into society?
It depends on the nature of the evacuees. You talked about Libya, for instance. Now, in the case of Libya, those were trafficked, mainly children. So obviously, what will happen to them when they're received back in the country will be different from, say, those coming back from Sudan, because those are predominantly students. So the ones from Libya, for instance, the young children, they were taken over by NAPTIP. Sorry?
Okay. All right.
They were taken over by NAPTIP, received them, and NAPTIP has a comprehensive program on the reintegration of trafficked victims.
Right.
So that process was different. They go into rehabilitation and and so forth, and it's a longer process. From Ukraine, for instance, these were just people. A lot of them were mainly, again, students. Some of them, so those that came back, were obviously very keen. They were independent. Their families were around to see how they could continue their education. And these ones from Sudan are also, mainly students. So they would essentially just go back to their parents, and they were given some, stipends to help them along.
Okay.
Okay, so I would like to know if, I know you do not have the exact figures for the evacuees that are back in Nigeria, but do you have an idea how many are still left and what is the state that they are in, like their welfare, security? Do we know? And what is the Nigerian government doing about it?
Yes, we do know. You know, there are two points of evacuation from Sudan. There was the Egyptian border crossing point, and there we had support from the Nigerian embassy in Egypt and also from the Nigerian embassy in Sudan at that border. Then there's another point of departure, which is Port Sudan, which is still within Sudan, but on the coast. And there we have Nigerian officials from the embassy, from the Nigerian embassy in Sudan, and so they're being looked after at those two points. Facilities are available for feeding, and of course, it's not going to be a five-star hotel, environment, but but we try to make it as comfortable as possible, pending the evacuation.
Okay, so I wanted to find out if the Nigerian embassy had the total number of Nigerians in Sudan prior to this evacuation situation.
Well, they will not have the exact number of Nigerians in Sudan. They will only have the number of Nigerians that have registered with the embassy. And so when the evacuation process commenced, the numbers that we were given and the preparations that were made were for 5,500 Nigerians.
Okay, great. Okay. All right, okay.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you concerning the bit of controversies around the students being stranded at some point in time, the fact that he said the money did not get to the bus drivers. Then there was also the case of some people feeling like they didn't have their documentation, and then they were not allowed to get into Egypt. Would you please explain, was it true that the bus were not paid and that caused them to be stranded within the desert? And what could have happened that they didn't get the documentation necessary to get into Egypt?
Okay, well, regarding the transportation, the embassy was dealing with, with two business people, entrepreneurs, who own the buses. Now, two other countries, African countries, in fact, that were also trying to get their people out of Sudan, they had paid some transporters, and the transporters did not deliver on the buses, and disappeared with their money and created a crisis situation for those two countries. So we learned from that, and our embassy in Sudan then decided that it would be too risky to give them all the money up front, because they did not want what happened to these two, in fact, West African countries, to happen to them. So they tried to negotiate it with the owners, to give them a certain percentage up front, and to pay the balance when they, deposited the, the students and others at the border with Egypt. And so this was what was agreed. And, and then so the drivers are not the people that were given the cash. They are employees of the transport owners. So, it was really between them. So they now get into a situation where they're now claiming that, that they haven't been paid the money and so forth.
Right.
So, so they reneged on the agreement that was made. And so we now had to start, as it were, running helter-skelter to now raise a fund and make that available. And it was not a very easy process, because you can imagine They said no more transfers to Sudan. They couldn't access the money there, so it had to be paid in Nigeria, in in naira. So it was quite a complicated process.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
One more
Let me,
question,
let me ask you something, because my worry is that this is not the first time we're having to evacuate Nigerians, and we hear something always happens. So is there like a standard of operations that the ministry has learned from all these various evacuations that will make it seamless going forward? Because I would like to have an idea, some of the lessons you've learned, some of the new policies you're putting in place, because when this has happened, there's got to be an easy way. It seems like other countries seem to have this already practiced and know what to do to evacuate their citizens. What have we learned, and how do you think we can do it better going forward in case this kind of situation happens again in any other country across the world?
Well, you're completely wrong when you say other countries have it done and do it seamlessly. In Sudan right now, a lot of countries are still facing problems. Countries like the United Kingdom, if you were reading the UK media, you would have been hearing about all kinds of UK nationals stranded in Sudan, complaining that they have not been airlifted, they've been abandoned by the government. And that was a situation with so many other countries in the Sudan. So I think it's not true to say that somehow all the other countries have got it right except for Nigeria. The other thing is that each evacuation situation is different and presents completely different challenges. And there's no way you can, foresee and prepare for them. By their very nature, an emergency is something that is unforeseen. So in Ukraine, for instance, we didn't have any, it was a war situation. A lot of countries did not believe that the Russians would invade, and then when it happened, of course, there were very long distances. We managed to get our people out. But, at one point there was a problem. They said that at the border with Poland, that Africans or so were not being allowed to. I got on the phone with the foreign minister of Ukraine. He assured me that that was not the case and that they would, take extra measures to see what was happening at the border and to make sure that people could go through. And, and then these people were now going to third countries, Romania, Poland, and as far as Germany and all that. And there's no way you can prepare for, evacuees from Ukraine and how they will be received in Germany, how they'll be received in Romania, how they'll be received in Poland.
Right.
So you have to deal with those situations as they arise, and you negotiate with those countries. With Libya, we had to negotiate, to get the children out when we wanted them out at that moment. They tried to, the camp where the children were staying, they gave us a false number, giving an indication or indicating that there was a smaller number of, Nigerian children and others there. And until we insisted and found that there were more, and we evacuated them. So it depends. In India, there's those who are deported, or from UAE, for instance. Right. They were deportees. They refused to get on the plane. They started stripping. Wow. Naked, and caused a real problem between us and the government of UAE. We had to be very firm with them. So each situation is completely different, and I think there's no master plan for dealing with those.
All right, let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue with this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We still have our guests with us, and Mariam had a question for the break. Go ahead.
Yes, so it's still on the controversies. So there was this video that went viral, and it showed the evacuees. They were at some sort of accommodation, and it was in a deplorable state. And it garnered a lot of conversations. We had a few people who thought they were being ungrateful. This is a war situation. They should take what they should take. But then, there are other people who said that even if it was such a bad situation, there should be dignity in the way that they were housed. So I'd like to ask you, were they being ungrateful, or you think someone dropped the ball in getting them proper and decent accommodation?
Well, there's no, I don't know where I haven't seen the video myself, but, there's no accommodation in Port Sudan. It's a port area, where ships come and dock and take people out. There's no accommodation there. At the Egyptian border, there's no accommodation there. So I think, it's not as if you have, hotels and things all along those points. You don't. So I think the question of, accommodation at those evacuation points just don't arise. It was the same situation for all the other countries. If you saw the pictures in Port Sudan, you'll see, thousands and thousands of people waiting to be evacuated by sea, actually. And, in the kind of situations in which you find, refugees who are fleeing crisis, very often in the desert and desert areas. So, I really can't see what the expectations could be, or what could have led to the expectation of, good or bad accommodation.
All right, let me come to the fact that in 18 days, this administration ends, and some would say that since 2015, it's been a roller coaster, especially for your ministry. Could you give us some of the high points of your work in the last 8 years, and some of the things you think you've done? Because we've seen quite a bit of things happen in this ministry compared to other administrations. What would you say is your high points, and what are those things you call your low points in the last 8 years?
Okay, we've had a lot of highs. I think in West Africa, for instance, we tried to entrench democracy on the continent, and you will recall in the Gambia, the dictator there, President Jammeh, didn't want to accept the election results, and I wanted to carry on, and it was a murderous regime, and Nigeria took the lead in deciding to send out, to show some muscle, military muscle, and force him out of power. That was something that was welcomed, not just in West Africa by the Gambians, but all over the world. And subsequently, as we chaired the ECOWAS, we intervened in a number of countries, like Mali and Guinea-Bissau. We stabilized Guinea-Bissau and helped to usher in the democratic, transition that they have there. And, very much welcomed by the West African region. So we played a very important role there. At the level of the, African Union, we had, also major successes. I mediated during some of the AU sessions between Morocco and the, Sahrawi Republic, Arab Democratic Republic, and, played an important role there. There was a time when the African countries wanted to pull out from the International Criminal Court. It was essentially Nigeria leading the way to stop that and say, no, that Africans require some oversight for their leaders and accountability for crimes against, the citizens of African countries. That was, I think, a major plus. During the COVID, we played a very important role in pushing the COVID response in the West African region with Mr. President as the champion for COVID for Africa. In the UN, we've been, very successful in getting, through the support we got from, as we campaigned for various candidates, get them elected, like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala at the World Trade Organization against very strong opposition from the United States, President Trump's government at the time, and also Akin Adesina, president of the ADB. Again, the Trump administration wanted to block his return. But again, our diplomacy was able to carry the day and get him, a second term. And we got a very, important position at the African Union of Commissioner for Peace and Security, Political Affairs, Peace and Security Commission. And again, there was a lot of competition. And, those kinds of successes grounded on, very solid diplomatic work and, cultivating countries and pushing a strong diplomatic agenda. We're going to launch, I think, next week now. It's been some time in the making, but we have a unique thing for the first time, a help desk for Nigerians all over the world. So with a number, dedicated number, with a team that will be working, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, where Nigerians can call in for, emergency or information or anything they want. Anywhere. Yes.
As a follow-up to this, I mean, I'll let the ladies ask a few questions, but what you just said now makes me proud as a Nigerian that we actually are big brothers to our brothers across the nation, from what you've just done in Morocco and Guinea-Bissau. And Nigerians don't have this information. I mean, we hear it like a flash in the pan in the news, but how come your ministry haven't made it a focus to understand the big brother role we actually do play? Because I'm hearing this for the first time. I have an idea of it, but many Nigerians don't even know the kind of work we've done to entrench democracy across Africa, the kind of work to support during COVID, the kind of diplomacy and advocacy we've done to protect our own. Nobody knows this information. How come we're not pushing more of this out to Nigerians? Why are we waiting until the end of the administration to start talking about it?
No, not at all. It was very clear when it was happening. It was announced that, his president was championed for COVID in West Africa. Nigeria was lauded around the world for the role we play in entrenching democracy in the Gambia, removing the dictator who was there, And I was on the news virtually all the time as I was doing a lot of shuttle diplomacy to Guinea-Bissau and then also to Mali, our reports from Addis Ababa on the roles that we're playing at the AU is there. I think people hear what they want to hear. I'm speaking to you about it now, but only the people who are listening to TVC will hear what I'm saying. Yeah. Others who are not listening to this program will not know. So, this is just the way of news. There's no one place where you can put news and everybody will hear it.
So, there are a few things on the international scene that is still, it still seems like Nigeria hasn't properly established a few appropriate relationships. I know that this might not be a question for you. It might be more applicable to the immigration, but someone posted yesterday about the fact that the expired passport, she wasn't allowed to board Qatar Airways from India because she had expired Nigerian passport, even though she had a valid US passport. And the challenge is they couldn't reach any Nigerian office to say that it was allowed. She even said she brought out a news report that said that expired passports can be brought into Nigeria. And you said we have help desk around. So my question is, when people find themselves in those kind of situations on foreign soil, who do they reach out to? It's similar to what happened in Dubai as well, where a lot of Nigerians seem to have been forced out of what they could do and they didn't know how to resolve that situation. What would your take be to advise such people in that situation?
Well, obviously, the embassies, that's what embassies are there in these countries for, and consuls general. We advise people that when you go to a foreign country, register with the Nigerian embassy there. Let them have your contact and maybe get other contacts. A lot of Nigerians actually don't like the Nigerian government to know what they're doing in various countries. So they shun the Nigerian embassies, and it's only when they have problems that they now start running helter-skelter, trying to make contact. But otherwise, they don't make contact. But as I said, it's next week that we're going to launch this help desk, actually. It's taken a bit longer than we had planned for the launching, but we believe that it will be a game changer for those kinds of situations that you talked about.
Right. Okay, you know that we have Nigerians almost in every part of the world. I would like to know some of those foreign policy that has protected Nigerians across the world when they have issues and when they don't have issues.
Yeah, well, when they don't have issues, what is very helpful, for Nigerians, even to get into countries, is a good relationship that your government has with those countries. So what we have sought to do is to maintain good relations with all these countries so that whenever Nigerians have any kind of challenges, it's easy for us to reach out to them. And I am, for instance, constantly calling my counterparts, all across the world when Nigerians are having problems. There was, I don't know why his name has escaped me, this popular Nigerian musician, young up-and-coming musician, who was detained in Uganda after a concert, what's his name? I forgot his name. So I spoke to my counterpart and had him released immediately. Of course, the social media was awash with why he had been detained, and there was no obvious reason. So we're able to do those kinds of things because of the good relations we have with those countries. And we've done them in a number of countries. In Saudi Arabia, in the UAE, I'm constantly in touch. Even in, with the UK, for instance, even with the Ekweremadu situation, we've been reaching out as government, and to the higher echelon. So you can only do that when you have, good relations with those countries. In Ukraine, for instance, when, they were saying that Africans were not being allowed across the border, I was able to reach out to my counterpart, who's very close to their president. And, he assured me, and truly, they got Nigerians across the border. And there was another place, another enclave in Ukraine, I remember, where some students were also stranded, and we were able to speak to them and arrange a corridor for our students. So that's what right. Good diplomacy does. It's under the radar. Of course, a lot of people will not necessarily see it, but that's what we're doing, day in and day out. Right. And then we're setting up for again, we're going to launch it on Monday, a business matching portal. So Foreign Affairs will have a business matching portal where any business person in Nigeria can upload their businesses, and all our missions, we will have trade officers that will, advocate and raise level of awareness in those countries of this portal. So Nigerian businesses, without going through all the, usual obstacles, will have access to the global market.
So you mentioned something in passing, the Senator Ike Ekweremadu and his wife. I would like to know what your office, if your office is in any way involved in asking for or interceding, because we know that his colleagues, some individuals and institutions are pleading his case. And so I would like to know if your office is involved in that as well.
Yes, we were. And also when I was in London, I, before the sentencing, I met at the highest level with the Minister of the Secretary for Foreign Affairs of the UK. We presented our case. We also wrote letters from the ministry. And, we've been in touch with them, and have done everything humanly possible to support a Nigerian in crisis. Not just because he was, former deputy senator, but because he's a Nigerian, and it was our responsibility to engage with the country at the highest possible level to try to help.
Okay, I wanted to ask you a question. I sort of mentioned UAE, Dubai, a bit earlier, but I want to, it's our ability to relate with other countries is largely your primary assignment, right? And we have been painted in a bad light within, yes, a few bad Nigerians have painted Nigeria in a bad light, but it seems like Nigeria is getting a very harsh reaction from the UAE in respect to inability to travel. A lot of Nigerians were banned from traveling to Dubai. Some were banned from traveling through Dubai. And it put a lot of Nigerians into making us feel bad to be Nigerians. It didn't make us feel proud of our country. I'm wondering what your ministry, what you have done in prevailing on making that relationship better, especially with other countries that are in that space too, like Qatar and more.
Yeah, no, we've been reaching out to them, and with UAE, for instance, we've spoken at length, and we've agreed that we're going to have we have what we call a joint commission with them, with the different, MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies, to engage with their side and to really look at all the issues, be they education, be they work permits and air travel and so forth, and try to resolve all the outstanding issues between us, and for them to also put on the table what their grievances might be as we put.
Thank you for staying with us. We still have the Minister of Foreign Affairs with us. So, sir, as we wrap up with you, we know of this jackpot syndrome. Many Nigerians are relocating abroad. And as a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, what are your thoughts? How are we gathering data on the number of Nigerians in each country per time? Because we know in the past, people go illegally and just disappear into the system. Are there ways for us to get Nigerians to begin to at least notify the embassy that they are there in case there's a problem? And how are we having data of the amount of Nigerians we actually have across the world?
Yeah, well, it wouldn't, it's not for foreign affairs really, we don't have the means to really gather such data. Okay. As I said to you earlier, we can only know the numbers of Nigerians who register at embassies around the world. And as I said, the majority of Nigerians actually don't like to register in embassies around the world. And yes, you're right. A lot of Nigerians are leaving, looking for, greener pasture. But this is, of course, a result of, certain factors, economic, obviously, primarily, and in some cases, security issues. And so the challenge is really for governments,
right.
For government to resolve the economic challenges. We need to deliver, prosperity for our people, and we need to deliver security for our people. Right. And so that is really the challenge we face. And if we can achieve that, then I think Nigerians ordinarily would prefer to stay at home than to travel abroad.
Yeah. Okay, so I have my own last question. What would you say in the 8 years that you've been in office, the perception of the Nigerian immigrant is? Like, what was it when you got in? And what would you say in the 8 years has happened, and how has it impacted, how people perceive Nigerians away from home?
I sort of term it as the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think Nigeria has a strong brand in a number of areas, sports, culture, academia, and there are a lot of, famous Nigerians, and, Nollywood, and of course the music industry. So those are strong Nigerian brands that project a very positive image of Nigeria. But, there's another kind of a taint on that brand with, the frauds. Nigeria is very often associated with frauds. It actually started, you remember, with those, letters inviting you, asking you for your bank accounts and things. Those are known as, Nigerian fraudsters. And then also now in the drug business, Nigerians have unfortunately also being identified more and more with that. So, and, human trafficking and, trafficking girls for prostitution and things like that. So it's the good and the bad,
Right.
We have a good brand, and then we have also that, those activities that are also giving us a bad brand.
So as we wrap up, my final, before I let you go, BC said something earlier that Nigerians travel all over the world. Are there countries you categorize as somewhat unfriendly, where you say Nigerians, beware, we don't have a relationship with these guys, so don't go. If you're going there, either you're on your own or make sure you protect yourself? Because are there countries would you think are somewhat unfriendly that we should be careful of when we travel?
So I lost you there, but now I hear you. What was the question?
I was saying that are there countries that you may categorize as unfriendly? Countries you probably assume they're not very, we don't have very good diplomatic relationship with, and Nigerians should be careful when they go to these territories or these countries. Do you think that there are countries like that?
No, I wouldn't say so, and I would say that that's one of the good things about our democracy, our foreign policy, that there isn't any country that I can say is hostile to Nigeria and Nigerians per se, so I can't think of any country that I would say was hostile to Nigeria, and I think that's a major achievement.
All right. Okay. So I think that's all we can take on this. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us, and we wish you all the best. 18 days left. What are you doing these last 18 days? Are you just hanging out, or you're traveling, or what exactly? What are the plans? Even after the...
I'm packing.
You're packing? Oh, nice. Have you done your handover notes yet?
Yes.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Well done. Well done. All right. That's all we can take on this segment. When we come back, it's Thursday, our Gistin Day. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Father in heaven, thanks for staying with us. So we have, it's Thursday, and we like to discuss family and relationship issues here. There was a message that caught our attention. People talk about relationships and saying that, is it really important for you to get involved with somebody who is educated or uneducated? People, you know how they say love is more important than the level of the education, that, when you love somebody, you don't care if they are educated, or you don't care if they are exposed or not, because you believe that God will bless you enough and help both of you to grow together. A lot of men especially decide to pick somebody who they feel they have a bit of control over. So many of them say, oh, I'd rather go tell my mother to get me somebody, or
from the
somebody
village
who you feel like is less educated than you, because you feel that they can control that person. What are your thoughts on this? Does that still hold today? Would you still, especially for men, because now that we have a lot of educated, exposed women who are enlightened, who know what they want, they are go-getters, they don't want anything, they're very crystal clear on the kind of men they want in their lives. If you're a mother, many mothers are now telling their husband, maybe their children, I'll find somebody that at least has more education, but not a high flyer, because that one, at least you can control. You have a bit of, why is this so important for us to have control? Because that's usually the reason why they tell you to marry somebody somewhat less educated than you, so that you can have control over them. That's the conversation. Does that still hold today? You can call us on 081-270-53687, 091-390-76948. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag yourviewtvc so we can read your tweets. Right. Who'd like to go first?
Educational. Should I read this tweet that went viral? I think that's why it came. This person says, does educational background matter in a relationship? And then Fasha, I don't know, I can't pronounce the name, says, somebody delivered a pizza that we did not order, and we were required to sign a paper. I wasn't around. My woman signed, and that's how our house was sold. So I guess that's where the question, that's where the question is from. That is it important for your partner to be educated? I think it's important. Education is not even about your wife or your spouse. It's just education has many benefits, and they say if you educate a child, a girl child, you educate, a whole community. And because of that, it's important that, we have people who are educated. I think educated mothers and parents are important, because then you would know how to also raise your children with minimal mistakes that we can make. We've heard so many times in hospitals where children end up in hospitals because the mother is quite illiterate in either dispensing medication or just taking care of the baby, you know. So those things are important. And in this case, important as well to even know when to say, you know what, I'll send this off to my lawyer. I'm not going to sign this. Who asked you to come to my house, you know? So it's important that you also marry someone who even if the person is not, I think it's not about the person's education, but also how you treat the person. So I've heard of situations where you marry someone, but because the person is not educated, the husband that decided, I'm going to marry this person, would also treat her a certain way, you know, make her feel, oh, you are the less educated one in this household, so whatever I say in this household goes, you have no opinion. If you know you cannot stand someone like that, if you know you cannot converse or you do not see someone beyond the education they have or do not have, I don't think you should bring them in as partners only to ridicule them. Not everyone who's been to school is a complete, like, you know, is completely clueless. There's some things that they know. And as important as education is, you know, we cannot put away some of the other kind of knowledge. There's something you like to use, native knowledge. You can't put that away, you know, and always remember that this is your partner, you work together, and you work in collaboration.
I mean, let me come to you, Tokwe. This issue of, you know, having somebody who is less educated. It's difficult to find a young girl that doesn't have some kind of independence. And we need to start defining which one is education exactly, because those girls that come across as uneducated these days, they are exposed in different ways. They've educated themselves in different ways. So the kind of control we used to have over them in the past, many of them today, they don't want that kind of control anymore. What are your thoughts on this issue?
You know, I feel bad for the African man, for the Nigerian man, who was brought up expecting to be like, I'm the man, and that means I'm exerting control, to now having to face the reality of the world has changed, but they didn't catch the memo, and it's a huge struggle for them. The average Nigerian man wants to be able to say, this is what we're eating, this is where they're going to school, this is how we're doing this, without having to explain why they're making that decision or having to carry along their partner in that decision. And so it is easier for me to find somebody I can dominate, who will not even think through the decision, who would automatically just say, yes, sir, because what do I know? I don't know much. But we are getting to the part of, we're reading the story, I think JAM, the JAM or WAEC exams that they were taking, they had 51% of women writing the exams and 49% of men. So, and at the end of the day, we're getting more women getting far more educated. Yeah. So the challenge now is, how do we get our men to be comfortable, especially those within the 20s to 30 now? I think for those 20 and below, parenting is changing and we're bringing up our children to understand better. But between 20 and 30, these people that are about to marry are really worried about the idea of they cannot be controlling and they cannot order their wives or order their home. And that's the problem. But the solution isn't in marrying somebody uneducated or trying to see how to marry somebody that is more subservient, but is in empowering yourself to be comfortable enough to be able to defend yourself at that point in time and know that even if my decision doesn't carry, I'm still the man of the house. Even if my wife does not agree with what I've said, I'm still the man of the house. And even if she's more educated than me, I'm still the man of the house. My identity is not linked to my ability to control the home.
You see?
Well, I would say marry your kind. Marry the person that makes your blood tick. Marry the person that you fall in love with. Marry the person that makes you happy. Now, understand that marriage is not basically for control. That's where we have, missed it. And Tope rightly mentioned, most of the men want to marry somebody that can say, shut up and sit down, and no questions will be asked. And ask yourself, is that the kind of person that I want? Do I want somebody who I would say, let's do it this way, and they bring their own idea? And I've seen men who actually did listen to their wives, and I've seen how their lives have gone. You see that there's usually this progress because a woman has the capacity to see from different perspectives that a man is not seeing from. But you need to trust your woman enough to allow her or allow her input in the home. So ask yourself, what kind of home do I want to have? Those days, we had our fathers who would make the orders and everybody is running helter-skelter because daddy has spoken. Right now, that's not the situation. We have homes now that everything has to be agreed and discussed, and children are more likely to play now with their parents compared to before. How dare you say daddy high five when you were growing up? You cannot. But now you see kids doing that, and that's because the dynamics of marriage has changed. So if you are still in that zone as a man who wants to marry somebody that they can easily subdue and hit on the head, that means the world has left you behind. So find your clan and your people who can accept that and go to them. Do not expect that you see someone, an enlightened and educated woman, and then want to put them in that position. Nobody will agree. And even those village girls that we used to call village girls. So I know that education has gone beyond, or has always been beyond the four walls of the university. Whenever we talk about education, we just focus on engineering, medicine, you know, psychology. What did you study in school? Education is also having an enlightening experience. There are people who did not go through the four walls of the university, but if you have a conversation with them, you see that these people are well-read, they are vast, they've traveled, they have experienced, and they have their own form of education. So are we categorizing, do not marry people who did not go to school, or do not marry people who do not have any form of education? We need to separate it because it's gone beyond that. I've seen someone who transacts business all across the world. From today, he's in Taiwan, tomorrow he's in China, and he did not have any form of school education. But if you listen to him, if you talk to him, if you speak to him, you would not know. If he did not tell you that he doesn't have certificate, you will not know that he doesn't have, and he's growing in his business. So somebody will sit down and say, I don't want to marry him because he did not go to school. This guy is educated, but he just didn't go through the four walls of the university. So we need to be able to separate those experiences and focus on the most important thing. So I have also seen people who married, and in that marriage, they started going to school together. They knew where they were going to. They worked towards it together, and they achieved it. So ruling people and canceling people out because you feel, except, of course, like someone like me now.
Yeah, there have been cases, BC, where you marry somebody who is not at the same educational level as you, and you're trying to make them understand certain things, but they can't see. They can only see things through the lens of tradition, demons, witchcraft, or things that the world, they've known. Every single thing. So you're trying to start a business, you're trying to scale, and they're thinking, don't scale. This is where we are. Is okay. At least we can pay school fees, we can pay our NEPA bills, we are fine.
So we don't bring evil eyes on us.
Yes, don't let the evil eyes come. So those are still mental cages that people have because of their lack of exposure. So maybe let's not make it look as if it's so much of
four walls of the university. Let me add to that.
Yeah.
Do you know that there are people who are educated who are still in that space?
Exactly.
Who will tell you, no, don't do too much. You don't say it outside, though, so that the evil eye, you know, they've not been looking at us. Now you want to attract them, and they're educated. Or sorry, they have gone through the four walls of the university.
They know better.
Yes, but education really, it's total, and that's what most of the schools are trying to do for children now. It's not just about the 2 + 2 is 4. It's about your wholeness as a child, totality, your psychological, your emotional, your physical, all those different aspects of intelligence is explored, so that the child is whole. When you come out, you're a whole human being. You're able to process information and put it down. Do you understand?
Yeah, I get you.
So it's not just...
But let me come to Miriam on top of it, because I recently watching a woman of God who was saying that for her entire marriage, she only allowed her husband to, you know, for her to have peace for these 40 years or something in marriage, she just allowed him whatever he said. She allowed him to do everything. He made the decisions, and she was just a yes man. And he gave her peace of mind. And today, she's proud that she has grown up, they've graduated, you know, she's living a peaceful life. That some of us young women today, our problem is that we are constantly having opinions. We are constantly wanting to have our way, have our say. And once we continually engage our head, they are the heads. Let them lead. Whatever they say is fine now. And that she's done that for 40 years, and she's had peace of mind that today's women... So he's trying to reconcile that of, okay, how does a young man today whose mother has been quiet all her life, and he has seen that, and then he marries somebody like a BC who has gone to Singapore and gone to Maldives for maybe as a single person, and now he's ready to settle down, and he's trying to tell her, okay, calm down. I'm now the captain of
man
this ship.
here.
We are no more traveling. How do we reconcile that?
And no more traveling.
So for me, I feel that because a lot of people date before and court before they go ahead to get married, some of these things are things that they would encounter during that period. It's not necessarily what you encounter in the bed of marriage, if I put it that way. So every one of us, we know what we're looking for in a partner. And the example you gave of the woman who was quiet, that is all she wanted. And she was able to enjoy it because she also trusted that whatever it is that he told her or commanded them was in their best interest. So she was happy. Imagine she was quiet and then was a man who was irresponsible and she didn't get all the things that she said she got by being quiet and submissive. You know, so it's not totally about, first of all, you know what you want in a marriage, and second of all, you hope that the person you're in a marriage with is playing their own part in that marriage. There are people who would say it's easier to, you know, that they would not want to be married to a woman who is too quiet or too submissive. They want that woman who is vibrant, who when they say one, she says five. They're like, yes, this woman is charging my brain, you know, that's what they enjoy. And if you come with all your submissiveness and all your quietness, they would pass you over. You're not their spec, you're not their type. So in marriages, you just know who it is, what you want, and you hope you meet the partner that meets you, you know.
Let me take this call from Festus. Good morning, Festus from the UK. Are you there? Hello, Festus. Ooh, I think I lost that call. Tokwe, do you want to jump in here?
Yes, please. Yes, please. You know, there's another angle that just occurred to me that we're having this conversation because maybe the men are not wise, those men, because women are not foolish. I will not be married to a wise man and I will argue for the sake of arguing. Like if you have made a suggestion that is, you said that sound, I would not say anything. You might end up having the wife saying yes, 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 because everything you have been saying makes sense. If I'm asking you to explain, maybe I don't understand, not because I am being disobedient or being stubborn. So sometimes the men should work on building their level of exposure, their knowledge, so that by the time you say anything, everybody in the house knows daddy is always right. Anyway, so we might as well just obey daddy. Anyway, precedence. But if you are like every other human being, you are not perfect, Oga, which means that some decisions you make amazing, and some other decisions not so amazing. So in the process of having a conversation with your partner, you might see the folly in the decision you want to make as a family, and we are able to take ourselves back. Besides, the two are becoming one biblically, and the idea is because a man is not meant to be alone. And there's an advantage to having a woman's perspective. So if a man is taking that position, it's because he does not value the woman's perspective and feels like the person has nothing to contribute and you're missing out on the vital part that a woman brings to the table.
But a lot of Nigerian men today, some, not all, they miss that quietness. They miss that.
You think so?
Well, some of them, I've explained that. They miss that
at some point.
Humility, the fact that, listen, just allow me lead this ship. Today, our women, they are constantly going for training here. They are speaking. They are doing this. They are doing their hair. They are having their dressing up too. And I'm either stopping you from your dressing or your makeup or the English you are speaking or the training you are doing or the parental skills you are learning. Every day, it is you that know everything. Can't you allow me to just drive this family? Because many of them are complaining. So they're saying, maybe I'm better off marrying somebody who is not that educated or exposed as this because I'm having issues leading my family. I'll take your comments. Let me take this call. It's been holding for a minute. Carlo, are you there?
Yeah, good morning, Maureen.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Automatically, you people are missing it. 100%.
Okay.
What am I saying that people are missing it because of African culture is an African culture.
I feel sorry.
99% of African culture remain an African culture.
Okay.
We can't take the way they use in the Western world to manage here.
Okay.
In the sense that a woman bring a food in a home. It doesn't mean that he's not, he will remain a man in the house. Missing its education is wrong. Education is have a certificate and live a standard life. It doesn't qualify you to become an housewife or to become a wonderful wife. And also depend what you want in life. That's what I want to contribute today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kalu.
The African culture thing where the man needs to lead
We pity the man.
and everything, but hold on now. I think fundamentally, we should raise our men better. We should raise our men to naturally take the reign of leadership. Every woman would love to submit to a leader, a man who takes up his space as a leader. That means the man must be sound. The man must not squander money and put us in hell. The man must be visionary. He should be able to see ahead. He should have foresight so that when he says this and this and this is where I think we should go, and we get there, over time, we will see the benefits and we will bless him. Every woman wants that because it's in our nature to obey. Not to obey, so to speak, it's in our nature to submit, to be led, exactly. Now, when we are raising our girls, it's important to be independent, right? But we must apply emotional intelligence. And I think that's where a lot of educated women miss it. Educated women who fall into the hands of men who cannot take leadership. And then you suddenly notice that this woman becomes an alpha and starts to do things by herself, even when there's a man in the home. But any man who holds his own, you don't get a lot of disapproval from your wife, because your wife knows that my husband is making sense. My husband is bringing these deals. My husband is, once my husband says it, I believe in him, I will get somewhere. Nobody will tell you that anybody is disobeying anybody or anybody is arguing with anybody, because they see that leadership. They see, you see some men, they are laid back when it comes to their spirituality. They want the woman to be driving the spiritual, taking to church, preaching to the kids and everything. They are laid back. And tomorrow you want the wife that you cannot even lead spiritually to answer you when you say, don't do this and don't do that. So men need to take up their space if that is the problem they have. Now, women who are educated need to understand when to speak and when to be quiet. That's wisdom. That's emotional intelligence. Sometimes it's not because you don't have the ideas, but sometimes allow him to say it and watch him do it, and then keep quiet. And other times you can say, can we look at it from this other option? Or can we have this other option as well and look at it side by side? But what we see is women who, because I'm educated, I'm making the money. You are doing agidi, you are rubbing shoulders with him in the house. He's making a decision. You don't want to listen to him because you feel like, I'm bringing 50, you're bringing 50. Or I'm even bringing 80 and you're bringing 30. That is where they have the problem. So if everybody learns to stay in their role, and pray that the person who is not doing their role well will do their role well. As a matter of fact, if you can pray that prayer before you get into the marriage, it's easier for you, so that if you know this one is an efulefu who cannot be a leader, you don't bother following, so that you don't have these issues.
Adeleke from Ikeja, you're live.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning, sir.
How are you guys?
Good.
All this look beautiful in that stage. Thank you. My contribution, I just want to say this morning. I watched your view on Monday. We're talking about culture. This is my sister that was opposite you. We're talking about we need to go back to our culture. Are you getting me?
Yeah.
And this part of the culture, this very man, the first caller, said this morning, that our culture is different for the regional culture. Are you getting me?
Yes.
It's truly, we are not really getting it. If you go back to the culture, our forefathers, our ancestors, they married over 2-3 wives, using their children to go to farm. They even boast of it. I have 100 children, I have 50 children, I have 20 children, they are guys, they are boys. Look at my farm and all that. And their wives are submissive to their husband. Okay, now, right now, the Bible says, it says, husband, love your wife. Wife, submit to your husband. And if you read in Genesis, it talks about how women are being as an helper. They are helper to the man. The Bible says they are helper to the man. If you go to school, you read Cambridge, you have masters, you have doctors, does not mean that you will not submit to your husband. Find out today. He said you are giving high five to your dad. Fine, it's good. It's good. There's nothing wrong in that. It's about love. Christ taught us about his love.
Adeleke, can I ask you a question? Adeleke, do you think we have enough men who can marry that girl that went to Cambridge and Harvard?
Obviously.
Do you think we have enough? Do you think we have enough Nigerian men who have the capacity, the confidence to marry that girl that went to Harvard and Cambridge?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Yes, we have enough men. Because, you know, there's a confidence in the man already. Because the confidence a man has is a different from women. Because you could see a man that is Rachel, I will have confidence to post a lady that it doesn't care what that lady, maybe is educated or not, whether it's not educated, he will toast the lady. But the future that really matters. What I am saying to you today, the future is about understanding.
Thank you very much, Adeleke. I don't know what your thoughts are, because I'm trying to put that in proper perspective. So a young lady went to Harvard for her first degree, Cambridge did her master's, she's maybe lecturing,
financial
PhD,
analyst.
and she's very, very educated, she's doing very well. She meets a guy who's also educated, maybe doesn't have as much exposure as she does, but he's doing well for himself. Now, she's having, she has a bit of more knowledge when it comes to financial planning, projections for the family, but he's thinking, let us just be regular. My parents were mommy, daddy, children, very, very quiet people. We didn't have too much. I didn't have to worry about all those extra things. It was just having a small family, and I'm okay with this. She likes him because he's a good family man. He's one of those that sits still, that doesn't do philandering all around the place. He's a good guy. So because of that, she married him. But now he is caging her with all the degrees she has. She can't go past this. Mommy, daddy, 3 children, we go to church on Sunday, the kids go to school, nothing else. All this vacation, he doesn't believe in vacations. It's just like maybe when they eventually grow older, they will travel. You know, he has this belief system that's caged him. Now, as a wife, as a submissive wife, culturally in tuned.
Keep your Harvard aside.
My question is, do you keep your Harvard and Cambridge and lock it up somewhere and be submissive to this man so that you can have a fruitful family and peaceful life? Or do you say, because I have reached a point in my life, Uncle, I can't do it again, leave or go somewhere? I mean, how do you resolve that? That's really the conversation.
Oh, okay. This issue is not a new issue. In fact, many homes struggle with it, and it's not also something that is gender specific. We've had situations, and I think we hear about it for the men, especially men. You know, we already know they work hard, they go out, they make the money, they come back. They're constantly, it used to be that way, they're constantly training themselves and doing more courses and improving themselves. So you have even, it could even start with a couple, they met at university. They got married, wife decides to be homemaker and everything, the man keeps improving himself, and then he gets to a point, and he's going for international events, and he now realizes he's left the wife behind. She cannot quite keep up with who he is today. And we have issues of, oh, is the secretary at the office now that is more like him, you know, and he would prefer for her to be the face of the family. Then this situation that you're talking about, usually when it happens with women, is that you marry someone who, I don't really like to put people in like grades.
Those kind of boxes.
You know how they say high-value men, high-value women? I don't like to use that, but for just the purpose of this conversation, I will. So you marry a high-value woman, and I would say it's her education, her exposure, her work experience, you know, her network. And then you, for some reason, you met somewhere, maybe French class, a French group or something, and that was a common thing, denominator. And she fell in love with you, and you get married, right? And now she loves the part of you where you are stability, where her life has always been on the up and up.
Yeah.
But she loves this part of you that she can come back to.
Always there.
And then you're there, you're stable, the children, she knows that the children will be in school and back from school. So that's exciting, but like everything in the world, you get to the peak period, then it starts descending. Then you now become uncomfortable. Right. You want more. I want you to stay at home more. I want you, and then she's saying, no, I want you to come out with me more. I don't think it necessarily ends up in divorce. Some people are able to work it out, understand where they are, make compromises, understand how far each person can go. But sadly, some people have had to go their separate ways because they are two different people with two different sets of values and two different, projections for their future.
We do take Jide and I'll come to you. Good morning, Jide. Are you there?
I'm here, yes.
You're live. Go ahead,
morning.
please. Sorry for keeping you.
Just like the last speaker said, this issue is not gender specific. And I'll give you a case where a friend of mine here in the UK spent so much of his resources coming back to Nigeria because he met a girl in Nigeria and they fell in love. Along the line, he did everything to relocate the girl back to the UK. In doing so, one of the street back home, he had an incident on the plane where he broke his leg. For the final trips, just to get married, get the documentations, and travel back. While this girl completed OSU, she's a graduate. My friend worked throughout, built a home for himself, built a comfortable lifestyle for himself. On getting to the United Kingdom, after a few years, 2 kids, the lady thought she could do better. You could do better in the sense that you believe you're more educated, you believe your friend, your partner is not the kind of man that you want in your life.
She feels she could have.
And I got involved, I stepped in, and I called this girl because I'm closer to her in age. My friend is older than me. I'm closer to her in age. And I explained to her that, yes, now you might think you deserve better, you think he's not doing enough. But he's able to improve himself. But if he had done that, he might not be where he is today, where he's able, comfortable to provide you with a comfortable home and everything. Eventually, the relationship broke.
But see, the thing is, when two have come together, they have their advantages. And it would be silly for me to be married to a doctor and I don't take the medical advice from her because I am a man.
You know?
It would be silly for me to be married to a financial, a money expert, and I don't take advantage of that. So that's the same thing. Men need to get it. If you are married to someone, take advantage of the value God has given to you and don't let your ego stop you from enjoying the blessing in your house.
This is our last caller. Raise an important issue.
So this case, the woman has become she's become submissive and she's underliving her potential. That's what
Tomorrow
that's the thing.
she'll be unhappy.
They said the marriage broke up. You know, so she's there and she's submitting and she's
So the
still
prize
like,
was
do more.
entered UK. Now she has entered UK and she's underliving her.
Yeah.
So the thing is, let's just pray and hope that we don't marry people against the will of God for our lives. Or let me leave will of God now, since we're not doing religion. We don't marry people that would stop our shine and take us away from our path. So we need to be sensitive while we're picking this husband or this wife. You know the capacities that God has given to you. You know where you're supposed to be. Ask yourself, the person I'm marrying, will this person cover me like a yam to ripe in the house? Or will this person allow me shine? Now, if you get somebody who will allow you shine, that's both ways, whether it's man or woman, you would always make a compromise. You always find your way around it. Yeah, we have a Okonjo Iweala today. She has a husband, she's married, yes, but it didn't stop her shine. And so that's how it will be if you marry right. So the idea is marry right.
Okay, well I think this is part one. It's a conversation worth having because I like the angle the last caller brought in. The conversation that is really worth having. We'll have that maybe another day. But thank you so much. We'll run out of time. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.